Ashes beneath the bell tower. The train hissed into heaven reach at midnight. Coal smoke curled like black lace through the winter air. The platform was empty, save for the oil lantern above the stationmaster's door, swinging in the wind like a dying star. Clara stepped down alone. Her boots struck the platform with a sound far too loud for a place that once pulsed with pilgrims and scholars. Now the only movement came from falling snow and the station cat, which slunk away at the sight of her. She hadn't been back in 16 years. Not since the fire. The bell tower still stood, tall and crooked above the town's black rooftops, its bells long silenced. The clock below it, though shattered, still read 1:06 a.m., the moment it had stopped when the fire consumed Havenreach Cathedral. The moment everything changed. She wrapped her coat tighter. The wind smelled like soot. The letter in her pocket felt heavier than lead. It had come 2 weeks earlier. No name. No return address. Just a single line on yellowed parchment, written in the ink she recognized from her childhood. He is not dead. Return before the final toll. Her brother Elias had died in that fire. Or so she'd thought. The town had not fared well. Shuttered windows lined the crooked streets like missing teeth. Ivy climbed where gaslights once stood. The bakery where she'd stolen cinnamon buns as a child was now a hollow shell, its sign fallen and rotting in the snow. She reached the old path behind the school where her boots crunched glass and ash. At the end of the lane stood what remained of the cathedral. Broken spires, charred beams, and the infamous bell tower, still intact as if time had lost interest in claiming it. A door groaned open. Not from the tower. From the rectory beside it. She turned sharply, heart racing. Light spilled from inside. A man stepped forward, old, cloaked, hunched. His face was a ruin of time, burned scars beneath a white beard, eyes pale and sharp as cracked ice. "Clara," he rasped. "You've come." She stepped back instinctively. "Who are you?" "You know who I am." He didn't wait for her to follow, only turned and re-entered the building. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The rectory was untouched by time. Books still lined the walls. Dust shimmered in the lantern glow. A fire burned in the hearth, though she saw no fuel, no smoke. The man sat behind a desk. She still couldn't place him until he spoke again. "You left before the toll." Her blood chilled. That phrase. From the letter. He nodded. "Who wrote it?" she demanded. "I did. I watched my brother burn." Her voice cracked. "You buried him." "I buried him." "You buried bones," he said. "But not his soul." Clara stared. "That's impossible." He stood, limping over to a locked drawer. From it he pulled a bundle of cloth. Inside, a charred handbell. She gasped. "I remember this," she whispered, touching the twisted metal. "He used to ring it when we played in the bell tower." The old man placed it in her hands. "It's not a relic," he said. "It's a key." "To what?" "The truth." He gestured to the window toward the crooked tower. The fire never ended. It only moved inward. Deeper. She waited until morning. The sun was weak, a sickle of gold behind a sky bruised with clouds. Birds did not sing. Her breath steamed in the frigid air as she climbed the cracked steps to the bell tower door. The key turned in the lock with a sound like grinding bone. Inside, dust choked the air. Spiral stairs rose into shadows. Her lantern barely reached the walls. He climbed. Each step creaked like it remembered her weight. On the 7th landing she paused. Something whispered. She turned the lantern. Nothing but beams and a rusted pulley. But the whisper came again, closer now, behind her ear. "Clara." She spun. Her name trembled in the dark like a breath. Sounded like him. She climbed faster, heart hammering. At the top she reached the belfry. The bell still hung, blackened and cracked. Snow sifted in through the broken shutters. And beneath the bell, scrawled in charcoal across the floorboards, were the words, "I did not burn." A gust of wind slammed the shutters. She screamed and dropped the lantern. The flame flared, then died. She stood in darkness. Then the bell rang once. Clear, clean, impossible. It hadn't rung since the fire. And beneath it, rising like mist, was a figure. Charred. Cloaked in cinders. But unmistakably. Her brother. The figure did not move. Clara stood frozen, breath visible in the cold, her fingers numb and trembling. Elias, she whispered. The shape tilted its head. Something in the posture was heartbreakingly familiar. She stepped forward. The soot shifted around his feet like ash on water. I saw you die. He raised a hand, the skin scorched, fingers warped, but unmistakably reaching for her. You didn't see enough. His voice was broken glass, shattered, soft and echoing. Tears blurred her vision. I was a child. No, he said. You were chosen. Clara didn't remember how she left the tower. Only that she awoke on the rectory floor, the handbell still clutched in her fist. The fire was out. The old man was gone. She rose slowly, her limbs aching. Outside, the sky was bruised with storm clouds. Something had changed. The streets no longer felt abandoned. Shadows moved behind drawn curtains. Candles flickered in windows where there had been no light the night before. Havenreach was waking up, and it was watching. She returned to the cathedral ruins at dusk. Snow had begun to fall, thick, silent and blinding. But beneath it something glowed. Footprints. Not hers. Bare feet. Charred. They led through the wreckage, past scorched pews and into the old crypts beneath the altar. He followed. The descent was sharp and cold. The walls closed in. Her lantern barely lit the path. At the bottom she found the vault. And the door, sealed with soot and wax, split open with a moan that shook dust from the ceiling. Inside were no tombs. Only rows of bells. Dozens of them. Small, bronze, tarnished. Each hanging from thin threads over empty urns. And names carved above them. She stepped closer. Her breath caught. Her mother's name. Her grandfather's. Her own. The urn beneath her name was cracked. Each soul was bound to silence, said a voice behind her. She turned slowly. Elias stood at the doorway. The firelight shimmered across his burnt skin, but his eyes were untouched. Alive. How is this possible? He stepped forward. You don't remember the ritual, do you? She shook her head. They said it was for protection. That the fire was punishment from the outside. But they lied. Clara's heart pounded. Who? He pointed upward. The bell ringers. The Brotherhood. They kept the bells silent to keep what was beneath asleep. But one day someone rang it. He swallowed. You. Elias nodded. I thought it was just a game. Until the fire started. Until they dragged me down here. She moved toward him, unsure whether to cry or scream. You were 8. I was enough. The bells above them began to tremble, a low hum building in the vault. Elias winced. It's waking again. What is? He reached behind his back and pulled out something wrapped in velvet. He handed it to her. Inside, a blackened journal. It smelled like smoke and salt. Father's, he said. Before he vanished. Clara opened it. The first page was a prayer. The second, a map. And the third, a warning. Should the 7th bell ring, the hollow will burn again. That night, Clara sat in the ruins and read until her hands went numb. The journal told of the 7th bell, a relic forged not to worship but to contain. Not a god but a hunger. A living hollow buried deep below Havenreach. The Brotherhood had built the tower to imprison it. Every bell but one was meant to ring freely. The 7th, buried beneath the cathedral, was never to be touched. But when Elias had rung it even for play, it had cracked. And something had slipped out. The fire was only its breath. The deaths its appetite. And now it wanted more. Claire shivered. The Brotherhood had vanished long ago. But their echoes remained. In bells. In ash. In her. She closed the journal. And knew what she had to do. Clara returned to the tower before dawn. The sky bled violet. No birds sang. The snow had stopped, but the silence was worse than the wind. As if the town were holding its breath. The black journal pressed against her chest beneath her coat. She could feel it pulsing like a second heartbeat. Elias had vanished again. He always did before things went wrong. She passed the ruins without a glance, boots crunching over ash. The bell tower loomed ahead, more monolith than structure now. It seemed taller, sharper, as if the bones of it had grown overnight. Inside, the stairs waited. Each step creaked in protest. On the final landing she paused. The bell above her, cracked and ancient, shimmered as if breathing. Beneath it the floorboards had split open. And from that hole, darkness. Not shadow but something deeper, like an open mouth beneath the world. She stepped to the edge. And saw it. The seventh bell. Not hanging but submerged in the hollow below. Suspended in nothing. Silent. It was vast. Carved in symbols she couldn't read. Its metal shimmered like oil. And it was ringing. Not aloud. Inside her. A hum in her bones. A memory. She was 7. Standing beneath the tower. Her brother beside her holding the rope. Only once, he whispered. She'd nodded. They pulled together. And the bell had answered. Not with sound but hunger. She opened her eyes. The journal was glowing faintly. The page she hadn't dared read before, the final page had revealed itself. The fire must be bound to flesh. One vessel. One toll. One silence. He understood now. The Brotherhood had not destroyed the hollow. They'd fed it. Each generation one child was chosen. To wear the fire. To keep the bell from ringing again. Until Clara left. Until Elias broke the ritual. And now it needed a new vessel. It had called her home. Behind her the door groaned. Elias stood in the threshold, eyes dim with grief. I tried to stop it, he said. I know. You can still leave. No, she said softly. I can't. They stood in silence. Then she took his hand. And placed the handbell, the old toy warped by fire, into his palm. Take it to the ruins. When the tower shakes, ring it. His voice broke. Clara. You said it yourself. I was chosen. She turned back toward the void. Then stepped in. It was like falling through sleep. The world vanished. Only heat remained. She drifted through memory, flame, and whisper. Voices echoed. Old priests, weeping mothers, screaming children. Then stillness. She stood in a field of ash. In the center, the bell. Whole now. Waiting. She approached. It did not toll. She placed her hand on its cold surface. And spoke her name. Above the bell tower cracked. Flames burst from the windows. Snow boiled off rooftops. But no fire spread. Instead a single clear sound rang through Havenreach. Not the hollow's toll. But the handbell. High. Pure. Final. Then silence. When Elias returned to the tower he found only ashes. No body. No footprints. Only the old cracked bell. Now still cold, silent. And the seventh bell? Gone. He returned to the rectory. Lived quietly. A guardian of silence. Every year on the same night he lit a candle by the tower and whispered her name. Not to summon her. But so the town would remember. And the hollow would not. Years passed. The town healed. Children laughed in the snow again. The tower stood tall, its bell rusted shut. But sometimes, on the coldest nights, people claimed to hear a whisper in the wind. Not a warning. Not a curse. Just a name soft and loving. Clara.